Welcome to the Bourbon Master YouTube channel. I'm your host, Chris Wilkie. We're sitting here on a lovely Saturday evening, and I want to talk to you about Indianapolis bourbon bars. So if you haven't checked out, please take a look below while you're down there. Do a few things. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and then click the link to the Bourbon Master top 5 bourbon bars in and around Indianapolis link for me, okay? So you're going to be able to follow along with a little of my descriptions as we go through it. So we're going to look at 5 different places today. So number 1, we're going to look at Joe's Grill in Fishers, which is technically like on Brook School Road by the fire department and the hot box. So you're going to have that as number 1. Final third, the cigar bar, is going to be number 2. So you're going to get there. I'm going to talk about 1933, both the Fishers and the downtown location. So that's going to be number 3. And then I'm going to talk about Broken Barrel, which is up in Carmel. There's also one in Geist. So that's going to be number 4. And number 5 is going to be Fox Garden Kitchen and Ale. So those are the ones we're going to talk about here. And what I want to chat about is why they made my list. So you can see on the blog post the story about them. I'm going to give you kind of a little bit more in-depth look here. So as I preface in my blog post, I'm from the Newcastle area. So that means my closest part of Indianapolis is going to be the east side. Or the east and northeast side. So I'm going to heavily favor those locations. Also, we did a fertility treatment stuff in Carmel, Indiana. So the one that I pull out from Carmel was around where we were doing that stuff at. So that's why I made a stop in that location. So it's all in that vicinity. We're also going to talk about kind of why you make a list. So when it comes to picking your top 5, I have to think about the typical person. Most posts, if you searched Google, and this is why I even wrote this post in the first place, you search Google for the top 5 Indianapolis bourbon bars. You can tell it's from a site that has no idea been in the area. They kind of just pick some random things. I'm guessing Google reviews or just first things that popped up. No personal touch. I've been to these places. I want to talk about them. I like the people behind them. I would take my wife, my family, my friends, anybody to these locations. So when I tell you my picks, it's not just me just giving you a bunch of BS. These are places I actually go spend my hard-earned money at and say, hey, I'd like to buy my alcohol here. That narrowed down the list a lot. And then the other thing I'll mention is I probably could have expanded this to 10 or 15, which may be a post way down the road. But they'll be as I try new and exciting places and get to see some more of the bourbon world. I think I'm going to find I have a lot more favorites. I just don't even know about them yet. So if your restaurant or your favorite place didn't make the top, don't think that I think it's bad. I may just have never been, because I'm only going to talk about the places I've been to. So number 1, Joe's Grill. This place, I had been there 2 times actually before. I took my wife, we got pizza before going to the airport, and then I took a group of guys there and we had some beers. And we went on a bike. We went actually to Havana Cigar Lounge in the yard at Fishers. Didn't even know they had a bourbon program. No idea in the world. All I knew was they were a bar. Happened to catch on Facebook, they had this bourbon list, and I went, holy crap, you seen this list? The prices are perfect. The list is great. They seem to have a very large selection, and it seems reasonable. And I stopped by and had a pour. I was like, oh, wow, okay. They had a discontinued list, and they had the rest of them, and I was trying some of the stuff on the discontinued list. And I had some Blood Oath and a Rowan's, or Noah's Mill, I believe, from Willett. Great pours, great place. I will tell you, if you go there, depending on the bartender, you may need to help them find the bottle you're looking for by pointing in the back. That was something I had to do there, but it was great. They seem to partner with Naptown Bourbon Group, or the nonprofit, which I don't know much about. Did a little research. There seemed to be a nonprofit in the Indianapolis area that collect and purchase barrels, and the proceeds go to like the Humane Society or other aspects in town. So if you're with Naptown Bourbon, it sounds like a really awesome cause. I'd love to talk to you about it. If you're a part of that organization, awesome. Keep up the great work. But Joe's is one of those places. The food was okay. I mean, I wouldn't go there just for the food. I may have not had the best thing on the menu, but I had a pizza, and I think we had an appetizer, and it wasn't great. Pizza was really, really thin. I'm not a thin crust guy, but I'd go just for the bourbon. You compare that to like Havana Cigar Lounge, which is just down there. It was the place we went afterwards. The father-in-law actually went to that location and he went to go pick out a cigar with a friend of mine, and he came back and he told me, order a Basil Hayden's, please, on the rocks. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. It's like $24 for a pour of Basil Hayden's at Havana Cigar Lounge. I'm not dogging them, but come on, man. Joe's made me go, oh my gosh, I love this. The barrel picks, the price points, the allocated stuff. You get to try a little bit of everything. You could tell that people know their bourbon and they want you to enjoy it. That's why they made number one on my list. I want to be with people that enjoy bourbon and aren't going to charge me an arm and a leg for it and have a really cool selection. So number two is kind of like my, not dive bar, but the place that is the unexpected. So it's Final Third Cigar Lounge in Ingalls. So if you don't know where Ingalls is, you're probably with most of America at that point, but it's by Fortville and Pendleton, kind of in the middle of those. And what happened is I was going to a beer festival, and I had seen some stuff from Bryant Hall, a good friend that I've kind of made over the years, and he had stopped by and shared us a picture of his drink and a cigar. I'm not a cigar guy, just not. But the bourbon selection looked really interesting. So we're going through this beer festival. I have my father-in-law and his college roommate in the car, and all of a sudden I said, stop! Turn right here. Let's stop for a drink. I'm like, what? They do it because those two trust me with, I think, pretty much their life. If they're in the car, I tell them we stop someplace. So we stopped and walked in, and I'll tell you, it wasn't super smoky. Now, it was a random, like, Saturday afternoon, mid-afternoon, but I didn't feel like I was going to die. There's some places around that if you walk in, you're like, oh, this wasn't it. So I actually had a old fashioned, because they told me how awesome their old fashions were, and a Sazerac, or the two drinks. Sazerac, I think, took the guy, I'm pretty sure he was the owner, about 40 minutes, it felt like, to make the drink, but it was great. I think he was more chatting while he was doing it, but you could tell he really knew his stuff. And if you looked at all the bottles that are up there, it was really incredible. I think they had a bottle of bourbon or rye or whiskey that could pair with any of their cigars there. I want to go back. Now, price point was what you typically expect to pay. You're going to pay between $9 to $15 for a pour, depending on the level. I thought it was reasonable. I think the old fashioned was $10 to $12, but it was well worth it. I really enjoyed it. So I put them on the list as kind of the unique, eclectic place. I would take people there. I'd probably go off hours just to kind of mitigate some cigar smoke. Again, nothing against that. Just not my cup of tea. Gives me like a sore throat. So that's the reason I say all of that. But really cool place. So number three on my list is 1933 Lounge. So for anybody who's not from the Indy area, 1933 Lounge is the bar that's above St. Elmo's. So it's in the downtown location, but they have an offshoot that's in the Fisher's location. And honestly, with my wife, probably one of her favorite places to go. So I have come to kind of accustomed to loving this. It's very hard for me now because I can go to Joe's and drink for like a third of the price that I could at 1933, but I digress. They don't have shrimp cocktail at Joe's. But I was talking about the downtown location. So when I go out, and I call this the best date night spot. And when I go out, I want to be able to take my wife somewhere that she will enjoy, she will have fun. So I know that I love bourbon, but I can't just be a bourbon bar. It's got to be able to have some sort of appetizers or food or something that's going to pull it all together. And that's why I give 1933 that spot. St. Elmo's is the same thing. I mean, you can go down to that place and you would have the same bourbon selection, but I don't like that. I want the feel of like the 1933 Lounge. It's a lounge. You got some chairs. You got some great places to sit. I remember going in before a Packers game and watching the game, and my wife and I were the only two at the bar. And like the guy was giving us the picks, and he was making old fashions. I was drinking a Redemption Rye, Recovery Rye, which was a pick that they did to kind of help raise money for the service industry after COVID. And I would do an old fashioned with that. Oh my gosh, it was great. Their barrel picks, pricey, very good. There's a story I'll have to give one day about me finding a Woodford number 21 pick in our Elks liquor closet and drinking that, which was outstanding. But if you're going to take a lady out or a guy out or a friend out, you want someplace cool, client, try the 1933 Lounge. If you go to the one downtown, get the sliders. They're amazing. The Wagyu or the filet slider, out freaking standing. I could eat 3 of those and I'm full. Seems silly that you'd pay that much for a little thing. It's very, very good, trust me. And then if you go to the one in Fisher's, Elmo roll, it's basically tempura covered shrimp that has been kind of covered sushi roll that has shrimp in it, and it's covered in the cocktail sauce. Your nose will probably bleed from the horseradish going through, but it is well worth it. Also, a hidden tip. If you tell anybody I told you this, we're not friends anymore. They have the best napkins in the world in the bathroom. Like literally, when you dry your hands, I always make sure to grab 2 or 3 to throw in my glove box, and my wife always makes fun of it. We look at each other like, you got the goods? We always grab 2 or 3 of those because they are the best napkins in the entire world. It's not a reason to go there, but if I'm going to spend the money, I'm going to have at least 2 or 3 of those in my possession. So number 4, Broken Barrel. This one was more of a location-based, and I like the feel of it. It was attached to Wolfie's, I believe, in Carmel, and it felt like, I want to say a bourbon library would be a good way to describe it. You went in there, and they had a great list. I could sit and have a conversation with my good friend and my wife when we went. They had cheap vodka, not cheap quality, but cheap price vodka for the wife. The bourbon selection was extensive enough I could find something I liked, a little pricey. I expect that in Carmel, but at the same time, reasonable. I think I had one of my Van Winkles there with my good friend. That's the picture you'll see on the blog. We also had another drink, and I really enjoyed just the atmosphere. It was one of those where I felt like I could come back and have a drink. The bartender was really nice. I had space, and I enjoyed it. I don't know how to just like quantify that feeling. I guess it's a sense of belonging. I felt like I could go in there at any time and I was going to be treated nicely. So that was very awesome there. And that's why they made my list for the venue. I felt the venue was very nice, that bourbon library feel, the loungy type of thing. But at the same time, I felt very comfortable there. And then number 5, and I didn't put these in any particular order because I wouldn't have put Fox Garden down here, but Fox Garden, hands down, Kitchen Ale House, Fortville, Indiana. Probably one of my top places in the world, I would tell you, to go eat food. The chef there, outstanding. I've had pretty much, there's way too much food on their menu, and I have only had one bad meal ever, and it was the pick of food. It just wasn't that good. It wasn't my flavor. Everything else I've ever had there has been freaking outstanding. If you're going to go there for bourbon, ask for a Foxy Old Fashioned. That is my best old fashioned in Indiana. I can't tell you I've had every single one. It's, I guess, a quest to go on, but I love that old fashioned. If you go upstairs, they have this really cool bourbon bar too. I've done a Scotch tasting up there. I went to a bourbon dinner in that area. They do some cool events as well, and the staff is usually pretty awesome. So I recommend going there, but I go for the food alone. I mean, jalapeno beer cheese soup, get it chef style, get those mashed potatoes under that soup. That'll fill you up on a cold winter day. Bone marrow fries, those are like, I don't know if you could say umami-ness enough. I feel like Justin from Guys Grocery Games, like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. You get into the Yucatan shrimp, they kind of leave a tingle in your mouth, and I love spicy food, and I can't stop eating that. The steaks are so good there. And then you can pair it with these awesome bourbons. I walked in the other day, they had Pappy sitting on there on the bar. They had a bunch of other allocated bourbons sitting there. You're gonna pay, don't get me wrong. They're not gonna be cheap like Joe's or like you could buy from a liquor store, but you're gonna have a good selection. And that's just half the selection they have upstairs. So these are my top 5 now. I have been looking, and I've been told there's a great Italian place outside of Keystone that I need to go check out. Wise Guys Lounge down in downtown. I've been told I should go check out Whiskey Exchange. I should go check out a few places over in different areas, Greenwood and Carmel. These are the ones I've been to. So let me know in the comments what you like. I will never be opposed to getting a new place to go try. If you're a restaurant or business, you want me to come try some, and you want to claim your spot in my next list that we do, invite me over. All I ask is you let me bring my wife, and you maybe give us like a free appetizer. I'm going to say that because I'm joking, but no, really, I want to try your food and the booze. If you don't have food, I just want to come and see your place. So if you bring me in on a day and kind of give me a little bit of a story behind you, you're going to sell me on life because I love hearing the story behind the business. So, Chris with Bourbon Master here. I hope you've enjoyed my list of the top 5 bourbon bars in Indianapolis and surrounding areas. If you did, like this video and subscribe to the channel. I want to see you for more of the Bourbon Master videos down the road.